Guys, so this is like a short Maya rigging scripting tutorial, how to rig a horse using my sequential auto rigger. And it's just to give you an idea how this system works. If you haven't watched the first part, definitely start there. It will tell you how to download the auto rigger and what the whole thing is about. Just one more note here. This is a little bit more advanced stuff this time, so in case you guys feel like it's too much, make sure to check out my quadruped rigging course or Minotaur rigging course. Both of them are available on my website. Some of the tutorials are free, others are only available for patrons. So let's delve into part 3. Alright guys, so as you can see, we're missing the joint here, left hip joint rig. So yeah, this is something we need to fix because the naming convention is different in our skeleton than in the create rear legs file. But we can go and edit the code for the step, and there we can see what is it looking for. And so as you can see, it's hard coded that it's looking for left and right, and it's looking for rear leg, hip joint, knee, and ankle. So this is just a module that builds all those things, but you know, the thing is that it requires certain arguments that we're passing, and those arguments have to match what's in the scene. So here we can just see that our joint names are not matching at all with what's in there. So we need to modify the code for this to work, and this is not too big of a deal, but it will take some time. So I'm just gonna try to write some Python here. Side, short side in zip, and I'm just gonna pass in the side as well as the short side, so like a shortcut kind of suffix. And if I'm iterating over 2 lists at a time, I use zip. Now, so I have L and R. So this is exactly what I need to do, but they are actually prefixes, as you can see here. And that's the name of my hip joint. So here I'm just going to be using that short side keyword. And with formatting, I can just make sure that this is working, but actually in new Python it's better to use f strings. So f strings are the things that you can incorporate like this rather than using this format thing that was in Python 2.7. And now with the new Python we just use f strings, and that just makes it much more readable. Then I have the stifle, and the stifle used to be the, I think, upper knee in the previous version. So this is what I need to pass in here, stifle and tarsal. And I'm going to do the f string thing again with the short side, in this case L or R. You can delete the formats as well, I don't need them anymore. So there's 2 ways you can do it. You could either rename your joints, or you could edit the code. In this case we're choosing to edit the code, which is, it's a good learning experience. Okay, so we gotta make sure that we have those underscores sorted out, because sometimes it's easy to forget where the underscore is. And I like to format it like this so it's readable. Then we have other things here, like it's looking for global control, global scale. It's looking for, yeah, so here we have some global variables that we're setting as well from the module that was being made. Now here, this is, I'm not sure why this says shoulder here, it should say hips. Yep. So that was probably some kind of a mistake. We gotta change that comment, and then again here, is going to try to get that parent of this hip joint, but in this case it's not a proper parent again, so we just gotta copy that. And well, this is kind of a cleanup pass, so this is a little bit dirty. It probably shouldn't be here, but we are deleting the FK like module group because once we're building that stuff, there's going to be just empty groups that are going to get made, so we don't want them to stick around. Let's see if that works. Run to current, we'll build the rig up to this point, and then run the step, and it's missing the R stifle rig. That's interesting. Let's see. Why is it missing it? So L stifle rig is there, but R stifle rig is not there. Okay, the naming of the joint is wrong. So we need to make sure that the joints in our skeleton are named properly, and I guess in this case I didn't do a good job renaming. Yeah, so you can see if I step back a few steps, this air stiffer, it should be stifle. So I need to edit the template again, and yep, sounds like my naming was just not done correctly. You can see I have tarsar and I have stiffer, so I have to just make sure that when I was replacing the R and L, I replaced too much. So that's an easy fix here. And then now we can just save over that template and let's run it. And then now let's build it. And okay, so it sounds like that module group is missing. That's because that module group for FK is being named something else. So I have to replace those names as well for this to work properly. And there we go. Now it built the legs, except it built them in a weird orientation. In a wrong orientation. Why did it do it this way? I think the joints are orientated differently. The question is why? I think the skeletons might have different joint orients, which is expected in this case. If it's a completely different character or different skeleton than what you've been building before. So we just need to go to that template and have a look at the joint orients. And we can see here how this skeleton has Y going down the joints, whereas the other skeleton has X going down the joints. So this is something that's tricky, because I believe our modules are usually relying on things going X down the joints. So we can either fix our modules, which is something that I wouldn't bother you guys with, or we can just basically reorder the skeleton orientations. So in this case what I did here is I duplicate it, and then I go to Comet Tools, uh, I rename it all just to not have name conflicts. And then what I do is I'm going to go to the joint orient tool and just orient them all, or show the orientations first. And as you can see, we have some orientations here. I like to do so when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing Z facing forward and Y facing sideways. Actually, the X is pointing down the joint. I guess I can just tweak it to make it Z facing sideways and Y facing up. I like that usually, where Z is the side one, X pointing down the joints. And so that's looking more like what we're used to. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And then we can orient this minus 90. We just gotta inspect that all the joints are matching this orientation that we're after, which is basically X down the joint. On the other side, it's reversed because we're using the mirror behavior. So you're gonna make sure that this is correct. Now here, I'm just gonna try to also make sure that Y is pointing up on the jaw. But basically you want your Z to always be sideways and Y pointing up. And this is a very common orientation in all the rigs. It's more uncommon to have Y down the joints or no mirror behavior, but with Mixamo rigs it can happen. But this is more following the Unreal rig convention. And looks good to me. Now I have two skeletons here, and one of them is skinned, another one is not skinned. So how do I tackle that? That's a good question. So this guy, SK Horse, right? That's the skinned geo. And for this geo, what I need to do here is I need to first save the weights of this horse. If I'm to reuse the skeleton, so in this case I'll save the weights. I could use ng-skin tool or some other script, and I can just save my weights to a file. And once I do that, I'm just going to unbind that horse completely, and I want to swap the skeleton when it's unbound. So unbind, and then I can just delete my original skeleton with wrong orientations. And now I'm going to rename back my reoriented skeleton to remove that ori suffix and replace it to nothing. And so now I have a skeleton which has the same names but better orientations, and now I'm binding it, just making sure all the boxes are unchecked there when binding, and I'm transferring the weights using ng-skin tool. So I'm reloading that file based on vertex order. And basically now I just reskinned my horse to the new skeleton, which has better orientations, ready for my rigging system to pick up. So I know this is a little bit tedious and unpleasant, but it's a good skill to have. Obviously the rigging system should be more robust and pick up the joint orientations that it's given, not rely on okay, always X down and always Z sideways, but in this case, this is what we're going to do. So if we run this step now, you will see that it will build it properly. without weird stretching issues. And yeah, as you can see, everything is ready to go. Um, those IKFK switch controllers are here. They seem to be orientated a little bit weird still, uh, but they're functioning. This is all functioning. Now remember that our main bound skeleton is not hooked up to the rig yet. That's an extra step there. But as you can see, the systems are working. And this is the, we don't have a foot rig, but this is the end of an IK leg that is going to be hooked up to the foot rig in the next step, or the next few steps, build foot rigs. Now the next thing we got to build is this front leg, and the front leg is going to be very similar to the back leg. It's just a matter of renaming stuff in the code. So yeah, I mean, there might be some weird structures here that are not matching the structures that we have built or what the leg requires. So we might need to modify that joint setup a little bit to remove a joint. First of all, yeah, it's going to fail because the naming's not the same. But we're going to look into that in the next one, guys. I'll see you there.